Hear me this time round, and I think I'm live for you. Right. So I guess I can confirm that I'm available live now uh, for you. So I'm just starting off with my discussion. The session is about. I mean, it's an interesting title, so it gives me access to talk about anything actually. And the title of the session, as you know, is Destination Unknown. And it's basically, I mean, my interpretation of this uh, topic essentially is specifically in the context of the CAT, or not just the CAT, but also I mean the kind of uncertainties that are there in the world right now. So we are actually looking at various kinds of uncertainties surrounding us all over the place, specifically with respect to COVID. So I thought that maybe I'll talk about that as we start. So destination unknown becomes the theme of today's session, right? And I know this the kind of uh, stuff that we are dealing with, the uncertainties we are all dealing with, whether it's business, livelihoods, economies, or education. This is something that is one of the critical factors of the world right now, that all of us are facing. And as we try to make sense of life as it has changed, uh, we also need to understand that there will be a time where the world will fight back, and there will be a time when things will start becoming normal, because no matter how dark or how negative the situation around the world is, there will always be a silver lining. Green shoots will start showing up at some point of time or the other, and it's actually better to look at the positives in everything than the negatives. Of course, the negatives are there. Nobody can deny that, and I'm not trying to deny the negatives that are around us all over the place. But if you try to start looking for the positives, especially for a student in these scenarios, as far as you're safe physically and can stay at home and remain safe in your cocoons that you need to create. And of course, medically, I think the most important structure till there's a vaccine or a cure. It's basically like a game of Russian roulette, right? So I mean, although it is said that only 1% people are dying, but two things that make it a very serious situation health wise. One is we don't know who the 1% is. So it's not just that only 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds are dying. You also have so many instances of a healthy 30-year-old person who's not making it. And hi Raj, welcome to the session. And on the other hand, you also have long-term health effects. Nobody knows. It's too early to predict what the long-term health effects of something like COVID are. So hence, the first and foremost priority for each one of us has to be to remain safe. And the only way we can defend ourselves, there are two three things that you should do based on my reading. What I've understood is, of course, social distancing. I would not call it social distancing, although that's the normal word that people use. I would call it physical distancing more than social distancing. You need to be at least 6 feet away from anyone. Wear masks. It is now well established, although the World Health Organization initially did not talk about masks, but a lot of things that the World Health Organization has mismanaged in this whole COVID situation, including not talking about the disease being airborne. It was very very clear right very early in the pandemic, in February itself, when you had reports of people going to restaurants in China or Korea and getting COVID, even though they were not even sitting on the table on which a patient was. So it was very clear that it's airborne, especially inside indoor situations. So don't come into contact with people indoors as much as possible. If you're coming into contact with people indoors, you should try to make sure that they are known to you or they are close to you, so that you have their backgrounds, etc. And of course, wearing a mask is the most critical aspect. Not only where you wear a mask, but even encourage the person in front of you as far as possible, without any major disagreements. If you can force or ask him or convince him to wear a mask, please do that. And be very very careful of indoor unventilated environments. Stay at home and only go to indoor unventilated environments if it's an absolute necessity. And there too, try to minimize the length of your communication or your length of your time that you spend inside. Make it as short as, if you're going to go into a shop, make it short, make it 5-7 minutes rather than 15-20 minutes, right? So these are things that you should do to keep yourself unsafe. But then, as I said, there are some positives that we can actually take out of the situation. And in a lot of ways, for a lot of us, it's almost like a what can you say? It's almost like a boon. It's a boon given by God or whatever you think of in this context. And the boon is that we are living in a world where we have so much time. Time was the one component that was hardly available. So my most of the students who would interact with me when I was training for CAT last year or for UPSC before that, most of the students would come and tell me कि सर मेरे पास टाइम नहीं है. क्यों टाइम नहीं है? सर जॉब में जा रहा हूँ, 5 दिन हफ्ते में जॉब में हूँ, सुबह से शाम जॉब में रहता हूँ, रात को लौट के आता हूँ. So work at least all those of you have got an option of working from home. That aspect is completely ruled out. That aspect is completely been taken care of. So that's one thing about it. That's one. The travel angle is gone completely, almost, for most of you. And the second part of time kyun nahi hai? Why didn't you have time? The second part of it was, of course, those of you going to college or studying some courses, you had to travel to college. You had to spend time in college. So typically a college student would end up spending 30 to 40 hours inside college doing his college work, which has now come down to maybe 10-15 hours because there's no traveling involved. You are not bothered. You're staying at home, so your food, etc. is taken care of. Your food, your laundry, everything is taken care of. So you can only focus on the important aspects. So this is, it's a godsend. This in a lot of ways, something like this would be something that you would hope and pray कि ऐसा कुछ time मिल जाए. I know people who have gone for CAT 19, CAT 18, CAT 17. वो किसी तरह टाइम निकालते थे अपने प्रिपरेशन के लिए. मंडे टू फ्राइडे 10 से 10 ऑफिस में है, रात को सैटरडे संडे पे टेस्ट भी देना है, क्लास भी अटेंड करना है और प्रैक्टिस भी करना है और सेल्फ डेवलपमेंट भी करना है, प्रोफाइल चेंज डेवलपमेंट भी करना है, सब कुछ करना है सैटरडे संडे को. और मंडे टू फ्राइडे it's completely this thing. So this is such a big positive. So what is very important for each one of you in this time, in the context of this kind of time structure, what's very very crucial for all of you is to identify a disciplined lifestyle, or try to create a disciplined lifestyle. So of course there's a stress also that is involved in this context. And how do you deal with the stress? The best way I find of dealing with stress is to make sure that the best way, as I said, I find of dealing with stress is to make sure that you create a discipline. The first and foremost aspect, stress ko hatana hai, to get involved in doing something. The more you are involved in doing something, the less your stress will be. So the more you get involved in doing something and in executing some stuff, the less your stress would be. And for that, the first and most important component is to define a schedule. And you need to think of COVID, the COVID related uncertainties right now that are happening across the world. You have to assume that these are going to continue for 6 months, 12 months and 18 months. Define 3 time frames for yourself, and for each of these time frames you define what are your learning objectives. So what you do is define an 18-month learning objective and self-development objective, right? And what are the things, not just self-development but also work-wise, what are the things you want to achieve in this next 18 months, right? And the 6 months workflow will basically come from the 18-month workflow. So one of the things that you have to talk about, I mean, one thing is very clear to anybody who's analyzing the world right now, and anyone who is looking at what's happening around the world. One of the things which is very clear for everybody and should be very clear for all of you, that by 2022 to 2023 the world is going to again be a great place to be in. COVID is definitely not going to be with us, or at least it's in its current shape and its current pandemic status cannot last for more than a couple of years. There will be, with so much resources being allocated to the fight against COVID, 2022-23 is going to be a great year to start building your career and start making an impact in the world. And if that's going to happen 2 years later, you better get ready for it. So in 2022, the most skilled people are also going to be the most successful people. And the only account, and again, in terms of the stress, hi Saurabh, welcome to the session, hi Abhishek, welcome to the session. So in terms of the stress that COVID is causing you right now, please understand one thing, that it is also giving you a second very important opportunity. And that opportunity is that nobody ever is going to ask you about a break in your biodata for the year 2020 and 21. It's like a free run. It's like a free hit that you get in cricket. Nobody is going to ask you कि 2020 में तुम क्यों कुछ नहीं कर रहे थे. ऐसा opportunity तुमको life में कब मिलने वाला है? These opportunities were only there when you were in nursery or class 2, where you're only supposed to move on to class 3. But otherwise, nobody is ever going to know. For every bit of time that you spend in your life, somebody or other is going to question you when you go for your interviews and you go for your next level of development. Somebody or the other is always going to ask you this question कि क्या कर रहे थे? तुम्हारा graduation के बाद 2 साल कैसे बीता? What were you doing? And in 2021, 2022, nobody, take my word for it, nobody is going to ask you कि what you were doing. And hence you don't need to have a structured answer. I was following this course, or I was following, or I was doing this job. You could be saying very, very comfortably that I am sitting at home in an interview. Imagine I am the interview in 2001 July, in 2001 March, 2021 March. What were you doing since last 1 year? You graduated 1 year ago. What were you doing? Sir, I could not get a job because of the COVID issue, and hence I was sitting at home, and situation was such. So I did the next best thing that I could do with the time, and that is I worked on developing myself. And then if that is backed up with the right kind of development and self improvement, then there's nothing that can stop you. ऐसा opportunity तुमको कहाँ मिलने वाला है अगले 20 साल में, right? And hence you have to. I mean, I'm a big supporter or a big believer in trying to get the best out of whatever situation life will deal with you. Life will sometime deal you aces, and sometime the hands life will deal you will be duds. And whichever hands life deals you with, you have to, like a poker player, you have to make the best out of that hand, and you have to fight, and you have to try to make the best out of that hand, no matter what it is. So my advice to everybody is that yes, destination is definitely unknown. We don't know what the world is going to be, what kind of skills, what kind of careers are going to remain, what kind of careers are going to this thing. Maybe the world will never go back to what it was pre-2020. But yes, one thing is very clear, that that any skill you pick up right now, you never know how it's going to play out for you in the future. And hence, the first thing you have to do is once you define कि तुम क्या क्या सीखने का कोशिश कर रहे हो. In terms of objectives, what you do is you break down your objectives into 2 parts. break down your objectives into two parts: your learning objectives and your achievement objectives. And you make sure that you have both of these. Achievement objectives maybe you can have only in the 12-18 month framework. An achievement objective is what you want to achieve in the next 18 months, so that you can talk about it in the biodata. It comes as hardware in the biodata. Therefore, third year mein I became the college topper in spite of being moderate in the first 2 years. Something like that. So that becomes achievement objective. But when you talk about learning objective, that's the kind of things you want to learn. So here you have to understand that your capacity, I'll tell you a personal story here. When I was doing my engineering from a private engineering college in Pune, as a 18, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, the subjects that I used to study, the college would give me 5 subjects per semester. I would end up getting 5 subjects per semester to study, and a 4-year engineering course that started on 1st July 1989 for me, and ended exactly, my last exam was 29 June 1993, and I remember the day very, very clearly, because I was supposed to report to IIM Bangalore on 1st July 1993. So I gave my exam, and I straight away went to the railway station. Everything was packed. I had left my hostel and all those things, and I straight away went to the railway station and took the train at 5 o'clock in the evening from Pune to Bangalore. So I remember that day very distinctly, that I had an exam in the morning and I had to rush back home and finish my packing and just move. So I reached IIM Bangalore on 30th June. So in 4 years of my engineering, exactly 4 years, 365 into 4 with a leap year thrown in is 1461 days. In 4 years I studied 5 subjects per semester. I studied 40 subjects. And then I reached IIM Bangalore. And when I reached IIM Bangalore, I had to study, and these 40 subjects were all related to each other, mostly because you're doing one stream of engineering, so you were more or less doing the same thing. When I reached IIM Bangalore, the same Arun Sharma was given around 7 to 8 subjects, some 2 credit, some 1 credit courses, some 3 credit courses, some 4 credit courses, 7 to 8 subjects every trimester. Seven to 8 subjects per trimester. Now a trimester, typically a semester is 6 months, but a trimester is not 4 months, because the typical schedule at a B school, which starts its course in July, now they have started their course a couple of weeks earlier nowadays, so they start around 15 June itself. But a B school that starts its course in July, its first year gets completed by somewhere around 15th March, 15 to 20th March. So if you look at it, July, August, September, October, 4 months, November, December, January, February, 8 months, and 15 days more, 8.5 months. So 8.5 months for 3 trimesters means barely you are talking about less than 3 months per trimester. It boils down to around 10 to 11 weeks per trimester. And you have the same Arun Sharma, who barely did 5 subjects per semester across 8 semesters, is now studying 8 subjects, 8 new subjects, some of them which he has never studied before, in 10 weeks, 10-11 weeks. 10 weeks में course हो जाता था, 11th week में exam हो जाता था. That was this thing. And some courses ended midterm, so there would be midterm, one week of exam at the midterm time. So midterm would be 4 to 5 weeks into the trimester, and end term would be 10 weeks into the trimester. And I'm studying 8 subjects, and in literally starting in July, to March, and then April, May was summer training time, and then starting from June to February next year. So you can literally count it's barely 14, 15, 15, 16 months. In 15 months, I'm studying 38 subjects. And I know these 38 subjects much more than I ever got to know these 40 subjects. So look at the kind of underperformance we are doing. I mean, I can talk about myself. Look at the kind of underperformance I was doing. In 6 months at a management school, I was studying 15, 16 subjects. In 6 months in a engineering college, I was studying 5 subjects. So which means that every 6 months I could have added 10 subjects. There was so much capacity for me to study and learn during that time. And all I'm asking you to do when you're talking about your learning objectives, even before you join a B school, and I'll come to the question, is 2021 a good time to join a B school? Should I take CAT 20? In my view, it is the best possible time to join a B school. I'll come back to that and why. But if I'm trying to define my learning objectives, I will break down my learning objectives into subjects I want to study. I mean, don't look at learning as कि गिटार सीखना है और बास्केटबॉल सीखना है. ठीक है, वो सब सीखो, कोई इश्यू नहीं है. But at this stage of your life, what is going to add maximum value to your profile is going to be subject-based learning. And the more subject-based learning you do, the more subjects you study during this time, and what you have to basically do is you have to try to build your profile. And this is the best way to build your profile. If you add during 2020-21, before you go to your B school in 21, if you can add maybe 8 to 10 subjects that you want to study and study them well. Maybe you want to study economics, maybe you want to study finance, maybe you just want to study marketing. Why not the critical subjects of the first year? What stops you? IIM में कौन से बुक से पढ़ाते हैं, कौन से सब्जेक्ट्स पढ़ाते हैं, देख लो और फर्स्ट ईयर का सब्जेक्ट्स पढ़ लो. Just read up the first year subjects. What will happen? What will happen is you have some profile. You want to reach some position in life. And this development will be the interim to the question of why management, etc. will completely disappear. When you say, after doing this, that I'm a person who's deeply interested in learning and improving myself. Describe yourself question आएगा interview में. So and what did you do for the last 1 year? And you say that this was my plan and this is what I did over the last 1 year. I studied 10 subjects which are not part of my engineering syllabus or part of my economics syllabus, but I studied them because I was interested in those subjects. And then they start asking you questions on that, and because you've studied those subjects, you can answer them. You are through any interview for the next 5 years. It's insurance against failure in any interview over the next 5 years. So please do this, and once you define the objective, once you define the learning objective, once your learning objective gets defined, you have to get into a schedule. And schedule will have two components. One is the daily schedule and the other is the weekly schedule. So you will have to create a daily disciplined timeline. What time do you get up? What time do you sleep? What are your work times and what are your break times? Just define these 4 things. तुम्हारा work times क्या है? Break times क्या है? तुम्हारा sleeping time क्या है? तुम्हारा getting up time क्या है? Just define these 4 things. And then the work time में तुमको करना क्या चाहिए? That should come from the weekly targets. So if you define that, okay, I'm studying these 3 topics or these 3 subjects during this week or every week, and मेरा next, define it in trimesters and keep yourself accountable. जब IIM जाओगे तो you'll be accountable. Every 10 weeks में learning accountability रहेगी तुम्हारी. तो अगले 10 weeks में तुम अगर डिफाइन करते हो कि मेरे को ये मेरा ट्राइमेस्टर है, और अपार्ट फ्रॉम माई कैट प्रेप एंड माई अदर प्रेप और वॉट एवर कॉलेज एक्सेट्रा आई एम स्टडिंग दीज 3 subjects. Remember, the possibility was to my 5 engineering college subjects, I could have added 10 subjects every semester. I am telling you add only 3 per 3 months. So you're adding only 6 every 6 months. So you're still at utilizing only 70% of your learning capacity. So if you do 3 subjects every 3 months and you put an end date कि ये सब्जेक्ट में मेरा ये टारगेट है, ऑनलाइन देखो वर्कआउट क्या करना चाहिए, कहाँ से पढ़ना चाहिए, कौन सा बुक पढ़ना चाहिए, IIM में जो बुक पढ़ा रहे हैं उसी को पढ़ो, मार्केटिंग पढ़ना है फिलिप कोटलर उठा लो उसको पढ़ो, रीड इट, ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड द बेस्ट यू कैन, watch a few lectures, try to do a few courses online and build your learning around that topic subject becomes your backbone. The subject becomes your backbone of self development. Don't do it random में हम लोग क्या करते हैं, अगर if you are just moving from website to website reading articles, तो बहुत बार क्या होता है कि हमारा कोई constant theme नहीं बनता है. इसमें क्या, you're doing a deep dive into certain things. So what happens is your ability to speak about it, your ability to reason out about it starts improving. So then what you do is, apart from these 3 subjects, you're also preparing for CAT. So you have your quants, your DI, your LR, everything is there, right? And you have enough time to do all this. Time is never the problem, it's just an excuse. No matter how busy you are, it's just an excuse. So find the time to work on each of these 4 areas along with, और as I always tell people कि अगर तुम ये करोगे, तुम अगर इन डेप्थ काम करोगे टॉपिक्स पे, तो तुम्हारा इंग्लिश अपने आप सुधर जाएगा 6 महीना 1 साल में. It will automatically improve. So the components of the schedule then will be, then you will break it down into the week. मंडे को तुम कौन से सब्जेक्ट्स पे काम कर रहे हो, तुम कैट के कौन से सब्जेक्ट पे काम कर रहे हो, और S1 S2 S3 में क्या पढ़ रहे हो. Right, so if you define that your work time is 9 hours a day, I don't think it should be less than that. If you're doing college, so college time 3 hours maybe, CAT time 4 hours maybe, subject time 2 hours, the additional subject time 2 hours. So this thing and essentially, as I said, with this you are killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because you're also preparing for the English section parallelly. तो तुम्हारा इंग्लिश सेक्शन भी हो रहा है साथ में, और तुम्हारा प्रिपरेशन भी हो रहा है, और तुम्हारा प्रोफाइल भी डेवलप कर रहा है. सो दिस इज द अदर क्वेश्चन दैट इज constant. 5 LRDI sets per day, yes, that's good enough. I mean, I typically talk about 40 sets a week, 15 to 20 DI, 15 to LR, 20 LR, so it's approximately 30 to 40 every week. So that more or less boils down to 5 per day research. So that's perfectly okay. So career plans, MBA now, as I said, it's a golden opportunity. 2023 is going to be a great year to pass out of your B school. 2023, 24, 25, because after the depression, the world is going to come back and the economies are going to come back, and there's going to be huge demand for skilled manpower, not for labor. I mean, labor को तो demand रहता ही है, but for skill there's a lot of demand. And for skilled people who can exhibit that they can actually create outcomes, उनके लिए बहुत demand रहने वाला है in 2023. So I personally believe it's a golden opportunity, and it's also a golden opportunity to get into education and complete your education by the time all this COVID business disappears from the world, or at least becomes the new normal, where it becomes part of where, I mean, there are only two resolutions to COVID. Either it goes away because of a vaccine or herd immunity or whatever you look at. That's one thing that can happen. Or the second possibility, the opposite end, could be that it could, I mean, COVID could simply just remain endemic, but it will just become like the common cold, because everybody is vaccinated against it, and there are effective mechanisms to take care of the people and to make them recover. So there are 2 resolutions. In either of these 2 resolutions, 2 years is the timeline when it's going to happen. And spending those 2 years in a supercharged learning environment. And I'm quite sure by 2021, B School will also understand how to do their MBA, how to make sure that the course does not remain only a digital course, because I was reading somewhere that a subscription to Netflix costs $10 a month, but a subscription to Harvard is $50,000 a year, which is $100 a year for Netflix and for $50,000 for Harvard. So people, I mean, these B schools are going to be forced to come out with reasons why they can still charge that $50,000 a year, even though they are making you sit home. So things are going to get better from here. Look at the positives at things. So it would be a great time to actually go back to your cocoons of education. Allow the education to seep into your mind and your skills in the next couple of years. And hence, giving CAT in 2020, 21, and when you're looking at CAT, keep the cutting edge. Don't settle for low percentiles. Go for 200 marks. Try to work it as a question. Okay, how do you get 200 marks in the CAT? I get 200 marks in the CAT, 220 marks in the CAT, which is why I get a 99.96, 97 percentile every time. If I can score 240, I'll get 100 percentile every time. That's as simple as that, right? So, as I said, improve your profile. I told you how to do it. And my last message is keep fighting, keep learning. And just the promotional message to end the session. Unacademy Plus पे my courses are also there. And Arun.yt is the promo code you'll have to use if you want to join Unacademy Plus. That promo code will give you a 10% discount. मेरे upcoming courses जो हैं CAT 20 के लिए, and of course I'll be starting CAT 21 के courses also. So upcoming courses for me for CAT 20 are a foundation, an advanced course on LR and DI, which will be coming up very soon from my side. And then there will be foundation courses in logical reasoning and data interpretation. These are all coming up in August, September from my side. There will be a crash course for XLRI, a crash course for IIFT, etc., which will come up from my side, and also a 200 must-do questions and quants course, which I'll be bringing up on Unacademy Plus. So do look forward to having some of you in my classes there, and I hope you enjoyed the session and I could talk some sense with respect to your self-development objectives. Please, my final message, as I said, keep fighting, keep learning. Maybe there is something which was very, very important that was communicated to the human race due to the COVID issues, and it's time that we take the message and move on, right? And in individual lives, the objective, I mean, I personally believe that what is going to come out positive out of this is that we had reached a point where we are only valuing, as a human race, we are only valuing money, not impact. So we are giving more value to a person who was, let's say, $1 billion valuation was more important than the impact the person was creating in his life. So maybe the world order will change for the better, and we need to be prepared for it to make the best out of the next upcoming times in life. So thank you so much, everybody. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. Different from my normal quants कैसे solve करते हैं और DI कैसे solve करते हैं sessions. And I would thank Unacademy also for giving me this opportunity to talk on this. Thank you so much. So I'll wind up now. Thank you.